Hi, my name is Ronald Feng, and today I'll be presenting my project on a study on how firearm laws impact gun violence in the US via data analysis and machine learning. So, for the past 40 years, each year there have been between 30,000 to 40,000 deaths due to gun violence and a further 78,000 non-fatal injuries. And the year 2018 opened with 17 accounts of school shootings in the first 45 days. And gun crime and gun violence in the US is substantially higher than every single other nation in the world. So my inspirations for doing this project really resided in the shootings at Parkland, Sandy Hook, and more recently Uvalde, Texas. So gun violence also has a vast societal impact in the United States, as 87% of Americans think that gun crime is a public health threat, and furthermore, the majority of US students, teens, and young kids in schools are afraid for their lives and that school shootings could happen any minute, and that is a major problem. So, firearm regulations and gun control is a very divisive issue right now in the US, and there really is no right answer as to how we can implement all of these gun laws. And as you can see, there have been some prior research in the field of gun violence and gun law implementation. However, they don't really offer a comprehensive review of all gun laws and all gun violence incidents in all states. And furthermore, the methodology they use isn't really the best at pinpointing which of these gun laws are the best at preventing gun violence. And as you can see here in these specific researches, the first one, as done by Roque et al., really only applies linear regression, and the rest apply statistical analysis such as hypothesis testing or correlation. And furthermore, as you can see in the next research study, the one conducted by Oregon and Washington only analyzed gun law and their effectiveness on gun violence in those specific states of Oregon and Washington. So as to my knowledge, my research is one of the first to offer a comprehensive study on all of these states and all of these gun laws, and it is one of the first, to my knowledge, to apply machine learning techniques such as XGBoost in order to identify which of these gun laws are the most effective. So now, my goals and hypothesis, my research question is that which firearm policies, if any, work best to prevent gun violence, and my goals is to explore the trend of gun violence over time using data analysis and advanced techniques, and also to examine firearm laws using data analysis, and lastly, apply a machine learning model in order to identify which of these gun laws are the best in preventing gun violence. And so my hypothesis is that these gun laws will vary in effectiveness, and some will definitely be more effective than others. So now I'll be talking about my research methodology. So first, my gun violence data came from the Gun Violence Archive in Kaggle. My firearm law data came from Rand.org in Kaggle. And lastly, my state population data came from the CDC, or Center of Disease and Control. And when I was merging these data sets, my gun violence data was sorted on a daily basis. However, my firearm law data and my state population data was sorted on a yearly basis. So I had assumed that the state population and firearm law implementation don't really change much within a year. And so I created some new features after merging them, such as a count of daily gun incidents on a monthly, yearly, and daily basis. So apart from the very useful quantitative data, there is also a lot of textual data contained within these data sets. And so I applied something known as natural language processing because I wanted to know which locations were these gun violence incidents occurring the most in, and also which of these guns were being used the most and what gun types. So I did something known as a unigram one-word, bigram two-word analysis, and I was able to generate a word cloud and also a table. And so now I'll talk more about natural language processing itself and my methodology. So basically, let's say, so first my column location description, basically it describes the location in which these gun violence incidents are occurring. And so I first had to remove some symbols such as periods, commas, semicolons, and colons, etc. And then after, I removed stop words such as and, the, as, basically words that are not important. And so by doing so, we are left with a bunch of significant words, and then applying the natural language processing, we are able to identify which of these words occur the most frequently. And so, bigram analysis or two-word analysis works similarly in that instead it analyzes two consecutive and adjacent words instead of just one. And those are the two which I applied in my model and my project. So next, I applied something known as a statistical test or ANOVA analysis of variance. And my null hypothesis is that the gun laws don't have a significant impact on the count of daily gun incidents. And my alternative hypothesis is that my gun laws have a significant impact on my daily gun incidents. And so, as you can see, I found that 98 out of the 133 gun laws were statistically significant to daily gun incidents. Okay, now we can talk about my XGBoost model building. So, XGBoost is basically a gradient boosted decision tree algorithm that is designed for high speed and efficiency, and it is great for handling nonlinear data statistics and classification and regression problems, which is what we are dealing with here, a classification problem. So now I can talk more about my steps. So my independent variable was my gun laws, and my dependent variable was count of daily gun incidents by state, and I was able to separate these into two categories: low occurrence, as denoted by 0, which is less than or equal to 6 daily gun incidents by state, and high occurrence, which is greater than 6 incidents, as denoted by 1. Okay, next I split the data into two sets, a training set and testing set. My training set received 80% of the data, and my testing set received 20%. And then I apply my XGBoost supervised learning onto my training set to receive my model. And next, I use my testing set onto my developed model to see how accurate it was. And so basically, I want to go deeper now into specifically how XGBoost really works. So as I stated before, XGBoost is a decision tree algorithm, and as you can see here, it is a classification problem in our case. So I have a bunch of these laws, and I have a table, and using my daily gun incidents separated in two categories, low occurrence and high occurrence, I am able to use a log function to develop my residuals, which is observed values minus the predicted values. And so by doing so, for each gun law, we are able to develop something called a gain. And the higher your gain is means the better it predicts your gun violence, meaning it separates your categories very well. And so you develop a gain for all of your gun laws. Let's say open carry L, that specific gun law, has the highest gain. Okay, so you put that at the top of your tree. Next, you move down. So let's say there's two steps. You either have the state implements open carry L or it doesn't. Let's say it implements it, so we go down the yes route. Next, we calculate the gain for the rest of the laws based on the fact that the state has implemented open carry L. And so, let's say H21 handgun possess, which is another law, is the second highest. And slowly, by doing so through a repeated process, we are able to develop a holistic tree. And as I stated before, this is a gradient boosted algorithm. So we are able to produce many iterations of a tree, and each iteration of the tree relies on each previous iteration of the tree. And basically what that's doing is it's taking into your new outputs into account. So that is basically how XGBoost works. Okay, now finally we can talk about the results of our project. So first, for my quantitative data, I was able to develop a bunch of graphs. So from our first graph, we can see the gun violence trend over time. And first, from the years 2014 to 2021, based on the count of gun incidents, we can see there is a slight increase. However, if we take a closer look, there is a dramatic increase when we count the number of people killed and injured over the same time period. And next, I want you to know, if these states, how many of these gun violence incidents were occurring in each state? And I found that, unsurprisingly, states such as Illinois, California, and Texas, states with higher populations, tended to be higher on the list. However, after I normalized by state population, you find that states with lower populations, such as Louisiana and Delaware, are now higher. Next, I wanted to see if these firearm laws were specifically being implemented in each of these states. And I found that over the years, according to this density chart, less than 20 states have been consistently implementing these laws. And after analyzing the distribution of each state, we find shockingly that some states even decrease their firearm law acceptance and implementation, such as Alabama and Alaska. And next, we can talk about my NLP result. And as you can see, apartment is the single highest, most occurring location in which these gun violence incidents are occurring in. However, high school is the second largest on this list. And for me, that is a very shocking fact that I wanted to do a deeper dive analysis into later. And furthermore, we can see that parks, neighborhoods, bars, clubs, public places tended to be the highest on the list. So next, for my bigram analysis, as I stated before, that is a two-word analysis that analyzes two consecutive or adjacent words. High school was the most occurrent location on this list. And furthermore, middle school and elementary school were 6 and 7 respectively. And for me as a student, that was a very shocking fact that schools can occur so frequently in these gun crimes and gun violence incidents. Okay, now we can move on to the XG Boost results. So, the top 10 most important firearm laws I was able to generate into this bar chart. The most significant law was Open Carry L, which is the prohibition of the carry of long guns or guns such as rifles in the public. And this actually ties back into my NLP result because I found that parks, bars, neighborhoods, public places tend to be the most frequently occurring locations. And my second most significant law was age 21 handgun possess. And for me, that is very important because the shooting at Uvalde, Texas, Robb Elementary, as soon as the perpetrator hit the age of 18, he was able to purchase a gun. And I really believe that this specific law can save countless of lives, and especially young lives. So next, I wanted to see if these top 10 laws were being implemented across the United States. So my x-axis is each individual law, and my y-axis is the number of states that are implementing those laws. And apart from felony, all of these laws have less than 20 states implementing them. And my two most significant laws, Open Carry All and age 21 handgun possess, only has 6 and 12 states implementing them respectively. And for me, that seems like a shockingly low number. And if you want to take a closer look at these specific laws, you can refer to the table. So, for my classification report, we can see that my model has an 87% accuracy rate, which is very good. And for my ROC curve, due to the curvature of this graph and the area under the curve, which is very large, it points to the accuracy of my model. And the y-axis is the true positive rate, and the x-axis is the false positive rate. True positive means that your model predicted it accurately, and your false positive means that your model predicted it incorrectly. And so, you want the ratio of your true positive to be much larger than your false positive. And as you can see, due to the graph, this is the case here, which corroborates my model. And for my confusion matrix, the y-axis is the actual values, and the x-axis is predicted values. And you want these two to match up. And as you can see, the categories of my false, false, and true, true, those data sets are significantly larger than the ones where I predicted it incorrectly, also corroborating my model. So, in conclusion, this project presented a new approach for identifying the most important firearm laws for predicting daily gun incidents, and I was able to accomplish this using machine learning techniques and advanced data science techniques such as XG Boost. And I really hope that this project can inspire future assessment in this field and the relationship between gun law implementation and gun violence. And I hope that future techniques will be future techniques such as XG Boost and machine learning algorithms will be applied into this field. And some future direction I want to have is analyze mass shootings and school shootings, as those were my original inspirations. And I would love to have the opportunity to analyze each individual categories of gun crime, because as you can see, there's many different types of gun violence incidents, such as mass shootings, school shootings, homicides, and suicides. And I have a comprehensive review, but I want to analyze each category individually as well. Thank you very much for listening to my project.